Following ESL R1's inaugural spring season, which saw close to €500,000 paid out, ESL R1's Gamers8 event would be the equivalent of an ESL R1 season, compressed into just 4 days of intense racing at the Gamers8 LAN tournament held in Saudi Arabia alongside several other games and attractions which began in 2022. Saudi Arabia appears to be making a push for esports by investing in ESL and holding tournaments with disproportionately high prize pools. Despite still not having launched and remaining in a very limited beta testing phase, Rennsport continues to receive massive esports investment. ESL R1's Gamers8 event had a $1 million US prize pool, which makes it, to my knowledge, the most lucrative sim racing competition in history, beating out other top-end competitions like F1 Esports, Le Mans Virtual Series, eNASCAR, Porsche Esports Super Cup, and SRO Esports. However, not much has changed since the end of the spring season. There is still no damage model, setups are largely fixed, there is no weather, and it's a similar format of 12 driver races lasting about 15 minutes. No new cars or tracks made an appearance at Gamers8, meaning that Rennsport viewers were treated to the same 4 cars on the same 4 tracks: Spa, Hockenheim, Nürburgring GP, and Monza. The 12 founding teams who participated in the spring season returned, bringing back largely the same lineups of drivers. FaZe Clan changed 2 drivers, and kept Call of Duty legend turned sim racer Crim6 on the roster. Crim6 brought charisma and potentially some new fans to Rennsport, but was by far the worst performing driver in spring, placing last in all but 2 of his 8 races. Furia brought on high-ranking iRacer Ariel Gustavo and Lasse Bach, not be confused with Lasse Sorensen, who subbed in for Furia partway through spring with good results, and who also returned for Gamers8. Williams and BS Competition also changed 2 drivers. BS Competition's best driver from spring, Nils Nauhaug, was absent from Gamers8 due to a conflicting sim race. G2 Esports brought in Fredrik Rasmussen, a strong driver from F1 Esports, but most of the teams, especially top teams, did not make any driver changes. Heroic, Mousesports, Redline, RHG, Porsche Coanda, Apex Racing, and Mercedes-AMG Petronas brought back all 4 of the drivers from spring. The production value for Gamers8 was off the charts. Drivers would race on a massive stage with really cool audio-visual effects, lots of lights and screens. There would be a lot of interviews, not just with the drivers but also team managers and race control. There were of course technical issues with overlays, sound, and Rennsport itself. But for this event, some more of the well-known Racesport TV commentators were brought in, and famous sim racing YouTuber and competitor Jardier would be an expert on the desk, which was great. This video focuses on the driver championship that happened on days 1 and 2 of the competition. The 48 drivers would be split into 4 groups of 12. Each group would race twice, getting points for every race, and the top 12 drivers across all groups would advance into day 2. With the point system, winning a race would guarantee that you'll advance, with the most likely scenario being that only 3 drivers will advance from every group, and this is ultimately what happened, although in a few unlikely scenarios, as many as 8 drivers could qualify from a single group. Out of the 4 randomly drawn groups, Group C looked like the most dangerous by far. It had Josh Rogers, Maximilian Benecke, Sebastian Job, Yuri Toman, Dyer McCormack, and Enzo Benito, who were 5 of the spring season's top 13, as well as Job, who likely would have been there if he had been present for the entire season, as opposed to just 3 out of the 8 rounds. Because of how difficult it is to advance out of a group, it was likely that many high-rated drivers from spring would be missing out on day 2 of the competition. In race 1 of Group A, BS Competition's Ibrahim Khan's game would crash, and this would mess with the stream overlay, putting Khan permanently in 6th place, despite having disconnected. A similar issue would impact FaZe Clan's Gianmarco Fiducci in race 2 of Group C later on. Kevin Sigi and Tommy Osgard had an exciting battle throughout the group, but ultimately Kevin Sigi would dominate Group A with 2 wins, followed by Tommy Osgard with 2 second places. Marco Page had the 3rd most points, but let's put an asterisk next to his name for now. Switching to Group B, You would look at the list of drivers and expect Marcel Chinchik, James Baldwin, and Luke Bennett to be the 3 drivers highly favored to advance. After all, they were the top 3 drivers of ESL R1 Spring Major. While Chinchik and Baldwin each scored podiums in both of the group's races, they would be joined by Mousesport's Yuri Kasdorp, who occupied the remaining podium places, displacing Luke Bennett. Bennett took 4th place in race 1, which could be forgiven with a 2nd place or better in race 2. But Bennett qualified 11th, and either had an issue or an incident that took him out of the 2nd race completely. Group B's Monza race also saw BS Competition's Ryan Barneveld pull a nice double overtake at Parabolica, although it was for nothing, since if a driver isn't scoring podiums at this stage, they are extremely unlikely to advance. While the back and midfield battles were very entertaining, the difference between a 9th versus 6th type of finish was for most, but not all drivers, meaningless for their progression in the driver championship. Group C was the aforementioned group of death, with 6 strong contenders in it. The first race was podiumed by Josh Rogers, Maximilian Benecke, and Sebastian Job. Rogers would win the 2nd race as well, while Benecke's 3rd place would secure his own spot in day 2. Sebastian Job would qualify last in race 2, making advancing out of the group incredibly unlikely. Job would fight his way to 6th place, but it was RHG's Yuri Toman whose 4th and 2nd place finishes would get him out of Group C. Group D was headlined by Jeffrey Rietveld, Moritz Lohner, and Joni Tormela, but 2 of these drivers would not advance. Tormela had terrible luck in the group. After Apex Racing's Peter Berryman spun on the last lap of race 1, the British driver did not hold his position and instead drove into Tormela, who was trying to evade the spun Audi. Berryman would be given a 25-second penalty for reckless driving. Tormela would then get a jump start penalty in race 2. Moritz Lohner had 6th and 2nd place finishes, but these were barely not enough to make the top 12. Instead, Porsche Quanda's Dane Warren and Team Redline's Jeffrey Rietveld advanced by winning races, and Williams Esports' Jakub Brzezinski scored double podiums to get himself into day 2. After Group D finished, the cutoff to be in the top 12 was 29 points, but there was a problem. 2 drivers were tied at 29, Marco Page and Kevin Ellis Jr. The tie would be settled in a 1-lap qualifying shootout at Spa-Francorchamps that Kevin Ellis Jr. won by less than 1/10 of a second. Some notable drivers who failed to make the top 12 included Sebastian Job, Moritz Lohner, Enzo Bonito, Luke Bennett, Dyer McCormack, Orhan Yayovsky, and Joni Tormela. 8 teams were represented in the Driver Championship Finals, with the spring season's top 4 teams each sending 2 drivers. The format for Day 2 would be finalist mode, where a driver has to reach 80 points, and then win a race to become champion. With a maximum of 25 points for winning a race, we would be guaranteed at least 4. But unlike the Spring Major, where points from the previous stage partially carried over, everyone would be starting with 0 points. Josh Rogers got off to a strong start, winning the first race and placing 2nd in the following 3, making him the first driver to reach finalist mode after race 4. Conversely, Mousesport's Yuri Kasdorp would finish in the bottom 2 in all of the day's races. It was Kasdorp's teammate Maximilian Benecke, alongside Team Redline's Jeffrey Rietveld, who were next to enter finalist mode, 1 race after Josh Rogers. Defending driver champion Marcel Chinchik also had generally strong results, winning 2 races. Marcel would likely have been the 4th driver to enter finalist mode, but very narrowly missed out as the finals ended before he crossed the 80-point threshold. Race 3 at Hockenheim Ring saw a big shuffle in the first lap, as parts of the track were wide enough to have 3 or 4 cars side by side, and this hurt some of the better qualifiers in the race. Jeffrey Rietveld had to hold off 2 Porsche Quanda drivers for most of the race in order to take the win. James Baldwin was a top contender during the spring season, which he was very close to winning. During the Driver Championship Finals at Gamers8, Baldwin would have middling results. The top 7 drivers in the Driver Championship would ultimately come from the top 4 teams of the spring season. Interestingly, races 4 and 5 were both held at Monza, making the Italian track the only doubleheader in the tournament. As a viewer, it is really cool to watch pro drivers go too wide through chicanes or the Lesmo corners without losing massive amounts of time or crashing into each other. Well, most of the time, at least. ESL R1's Spring Driver Championship was decided with a dramatic, early race incident, and Gamers8 would be no different. During race 6, the 3 leading drivers were all in finalist mode. Josh Rogers received some contact while defending his lead from Jeffrey Rietveld, causing both drivers to fall to the back of the field. This incident gifted the championship to Maximilian Benecke, who was in 3rd place at the time. The German driver would win $100,000. After some off-stream point adjustments, Josh Rogers took 2nd in the championship, followed by Jeffrey Rietveld and Marcel Chinchik. For perspective, finalists at Gamers8 only had to do 8 15-minute races to win thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. A driver in the spring season would have likely done 30 or more 15-minute races to win around half as much prize money. If you enjoyed this summary, you might also want to watch my other summaries of ESL R1 events. I intend to cover the fall season, which begins in under a week from when this video is uploaded, as well as making other sim racing related videos. Thank you for watching.